Hello. I would like to call the April 5th Metropolitan Area Planning Commission meeting to order. I know. Can we have the announcements, please?
Before we begin the agenda, the Wichita-Sedgwick County Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and the Wichita-Sedgwick County Board of Zoning Appeals would like to take this opportunity to welcome everyone to this public hearing. Copies of the agenda for today's meeting, the public hearing procedure, and Planning Department staff reports on all agenda items are available in the lobby of this conference room. The Planning Commission's and the BZA's bylaws limit the applicant on a zoning, subdivision, or variance application and his or her representative to a total of 10 minutes of speaking time at the start of the hearing on that item, plus up to 2 minutes at the conclusion of that hearing. All other persons wishing to speak on agenda items are limited to 3 minutes per person. However, if they feel that it is needed and justified, the chairman may extend these times by up to 2 minutes. All speakers are requested to state his or her name and address for the record when beginning to speak. When you are finished speaking, please write your name, address, and the case number on the sheet provided in the lobby. This will enable staff to notify you if there are any additional proceedings concerning that item. Please note that all written and visual materials you present to the Commission and the Board will be retained by the Secretary as part of the official record. If you are not speaking but you wish to be notified about future proceedings on a particular case, please sign in on that same sheet. The Planning Commission and the Board are interested in hearing the views of all persons who wish to express themselves on the agenda items. However, we ask that all speakers please be as concise as possible and avoid long repetitions of facts or opinions which have already been stated. For your information, the Wichita City Council has adopted a policy for all city zoning items. A copy of this policy is available in the lobby. The City Council relies on a written record of the Planning Commission hearings and does not conduct its own additional public hearings on these items. The decision of the BZA is final. Any appeal of a decision of the BZA is to district court.
We would like to take this moment to introduce a new member of our commission, Terrell Florence from District 1. Would you like to say anything about yourself? Or? Okay.
I'm a retired city employee that worked in this area for
Push your
27 years.
button there.
He's on.
I am a retired city employee that worked in this particular area for the last 20 years and retired 4 years ago. I'm glad to be back.
You bring a lot of knowledge to us. Thank you. And I wanted to thank Mr. Warren for subbing for Cindy and I the last meeting, but he's not here. So, but let the record
Too much for him.
Let the record show that I did acknowledge his able assistance. Thank you. All right, let's look at. We have no minutes. Is that correct? All right, let's look at number 2, which is a consideration of subdivision committee recommendation for a street name change, and that's 2-1. Anybody on the commission wish to hear that item? Anybody? Yes.
That vote's not right on that one, is it?
That's what I was looking to see. It looks like they're flipped.
They are flip-flopped.
They're switched.
Yeah, that 2-1 was approved 6-0 by the subdivision committee. It's the item 3-1 that was denied on a moot vote 3-3.
I have it on mine's 6-1.
Well, see, this should be down here.
Oh, well, mine's correct.
Okay, all right.
That was a.
Well, yeah, because you're the chair.
That was approved 6-0. Anybody on the commission wants to?
For the street change, it was okay.
6-0.
Okay.
Anybody want to hear that item? Anybody in the audience wish to hear item 2-1? Okay, we'll hear it. Anybody wish to hear item 3-1? We'll hear that one. Anyone wish to hear item 4, which is case number 14?
Yeah, there's people here.
All right. Item 5, they're asking for a deferral of this, and I'll talk about that when it comes up. Anybody wish to hear item 6, which is case number 12? Anybody in the audience wish to hear number 6? Seeing none, we'll take that by consent. Do we have a motion?
Moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Green, seconded by Ms. Miles. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. So that passes 11-0. Okay, we'll go back to item 2-1.
Neil Straw, planning staff. Item 2-1 was a street name change. The reason for the street name change, the street as shown here was platted in the Sandcrest edition. There is that portion of the plat. The plat to the south we just had recently, Sandcrest 4th, and they are extending the street Wavecrest here to the north to connect to the street to the north. So what they're showing as a cul-de-sac bulb in the previous plat would be extended to meet the street to the south. This portion of the bulb would be vacated. With that connection, the name of the street needs to be changed because right now it says Wavecrest Circle. Circle is a suffix that connotes a cul-de-sac. So the street name had to be changed from Wavecrest Circle to Wavecrest Street, and also GIS wanted the north-south street to be called Anna. So that generated the name for the street name change. Subdivision Committee recommended approval.
Okay, thank you. I guess we go right to comments, unless somebody on the commission would like to ask a question of staff. Seeing none, anybody in the audience wish to, is there an applicant? Who's the applicant? We'll ask the applicant to come forward.
Chris Rose with Boffin Company, agent for the applicant. The applicant agrees with staff comments, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Questions for the applicant? Seeing none,
Thank you.
open it up for public comment. Who would like to be our first speaker? Okay. Evidently, the explanation was clear, and we would entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I guess I forgot to ask for a rebuttal, but I don't think there was one. So we got a first and second. Asmar. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, 11-0. Item 3-1, which is, who's going to present that? Okay.
Hello, Kyle Kobe, Associate Planner. This is Vacation Case 2018-09. It's a vacation of a platted front setback to allow for a carport. So the plat, as it stands right now, mandates a 30-foot building setback. The applicant is requesting 24 feet. I'm just going to go through these images real quick. The neighborhood is zoned SF5 in all directions for some amount of space. Here's a site plan showing where the proposed carport would be in relation to this 30-foot building setback line. So as you can see, it extends out here.
Is that a correct statement, where it would be or where it is?
Yeah.
Where it is, yeah.
That's
So
the-
this is an image of the carport as it exists. So that was one of the subjects of subdivision committee. A lot of what was discussed was that the carport does currently exist, and that this request would allow for this current structure. So this is a site from the street. And then I just took some pictures of two different, just looking different ways to kind of give some context, not only of the structure itself, but in context with the surrounding area. And then this is just looking west down the Marjorie and looking east down Marjorie. And here is a photo submitted by the applicant showing the natural color of the bricks. And I believe the applicant has something, will speak to that. Those are really the subject of the case is whether or not to vacate the front setback to allow for the carport to exist. This vacation would reduce the setback from 30 feet to 24 feet, and then the applicant would utilize the provision within the zoning code that allows for carports to project into setbacks no more than 8 feet, which would allow for this structure to exist without violating that provision of the code. Although also noted in the staff report is that the applicant will need to secure building permits from MAPC, and that those will need to be secured prior to the case going to City Council for approval.
Questions for the staff?
So if they get approval to extend, is that likely, or you don't know, really? They can just apply, it isn't automatic, or is it?
You mean to project into the setback?
Yeah.
That would be, that is just a provision within the zoning code that's not a further level of review on our part. MABCD, when they issue the building permits, will know whether or not, if they were actually projecting 20 feet out rather than what they've indicated here, then that would be different. But according to this, they would be within the provisions of the zoning code.
So they could just go ahead and apply and do it anyway, no matter what we
Well,
decide?
no. They couldn't apply if we don't approve this.
Okay.
Yeah, it requires approval of this vacation to then allow for that provision to, so
Okay,
it's two
okay.
parts to it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Mr. Foster?
This is a general staff question. We're looking at this for one reason is this was a platted 30-foot setback. And my question is, would the standard setback without that being platted have been 25 feet?
Yes.
So the second question is, how often does someone come in and request that 8-foot projection into a setback for a carport? Does that happen?
That's not something that we would know as planning staff. As far as I know, I think that would just be something when they went in for their building permit, they would show their plans, and then the building, when they were going to get their building permit, they would check that and go, looks like you meet this requirement. And we as planning staff wouldn't see that case. So I don't know, I can't give you metrics on that or anything.
I am curious on the 30-foot for this particular street. Is it considered a collector, or why would it have been 30 feet to begin with?
That's just the way it was platted. It's fairly common to see 30 feet, although it is extra in residential.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not sure I know. It kind of depends on how old this plat is. There was a time period where, when Don Loso was here, if you remember him, he wanted all of the building setbacks platted, even if it was just the straight zoning setback. We don't do that anymore.
Thank you.
Any other questions for staff? Seeing none, agent or applicant?
Just speak. My name is Nora Young. I live at 6520 East Marjorie. I built the carport without a permit. It wasn't my intent to violate code. I didn't realize there was a code, and I didn't realize I needed a permit to put up the carport. So now I know what I should have done. I just need to know what I need to do now, if it's possible to do something that I can keep it, or, I will do whatever I need to do.
Any questions for the applicant? John?
Could we have staff assist her, or if she can't do it, to the picture of the carport itself? There, that one. What is the blue up above it?
Oh, it was before I had the roof on it. It was just up there to cover
Oh, it's
weather.
a tarp.
The
Okay.
reason I had this picture is the new pictures, it looks gray because after I put the mortar on, I haven't done I guess there's an acid wash I have to do on the bricks to get the mortar out of the brick. And this was just to show that the brick is red to match the house. Now it looks grayish, but that's not the permanent color of the brick.
Oh, okay, so the blue isn't there anymore.
No,
Okay.
the newer picture, I can't see it as well. I think, am I going back and forth?
Yeah, I don't see it there, so.
It looks grayer than what it is, but it actually is. I did try to match the brick and the mortar both to the house.
So that, up there at the top is, approximately a foot, that's actually brick finish?
Yeah, the four posts and the facing, I guess, is brick, and then it has the
okay.
roof on
That makes a
the,
difference, 'cause
and then it just
all
had a roof.
looked
I
like
just didn't have the
wood.
roof on it at the time, and it was gonna rain, so we tarped it.
What is the reason for the carport? It looks like it's right in front of the garage.
I have a big vehicle, and it doesn't fit unless I pull the sides in, and I can pull in, but then I can't open the door and actually get out of the car if I try to pull it in the garage.
Any other questions for the applicant? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Anybody from the audience wish to comment on this case?
Good afternoon. My name is John Sieber, S-E-E-B-E-R. I live at 6603 Marjorie Lane, across the street and one house east of this property you're considering. I've lived there since 1963. Last week I looked at the complete file in this case, and when the staff report came out from the hearing last week, there was something in that report that I didn't see any tracks of it in the file that I think are important, and that's the paragraph that says, Deborah Legge, Neighborhood Housing Director, stated, this case was started in December of last year because of the carport illegally installed in the front yard setback. They were initially given until 1/8 to resolve it. That deadline was extended until 2/12. The case was started as a result of a complaint. The vacation application was filed on 14 February. However, the applicant discussed requirements for application with staff over a week prior to the application being filed. I had not seen any reference to that in the file, administrative file I looked at before that particular hearing. So I don't know what other minefields may be there, but this bears the tracks really of a go ahead, strong arm your way into something and then do the innocent plea because they had a chance to do something and they frankly didn't do it. Picture-wise, I have some pictures. I think the one large picture was one that I gave at the meeting last week. I have 3 other 8x10s that I want to put in evidence because they show a little better the contrast in the color. At the hearing last week, the applicant stated that she had an ex-neighbor from up at Burton, where she lived, where she moved on Marjorie, do the work on this matter. I looked, and I'm going to put in a Google map of 12501 North 231st Street West, which I think is a picture of the prior residence of the applicant in this case, that I understand is some 11 miles south of the town of Burton. She also stated that she had an ex-neighbor from Burton do the building on this matter, who obviously didn't know.
Your time's up, sir. I'll give you another, 30 seconds, minute?
And, you know, this should not be allowed. This is not something that you would want to see on your own block at all, and this application should be denied. Thank you very much.
Next speaker, please. Oh, see, I think it's time. Oh, okay. Is there any questions for that speaker? I didn't see any. Okay. Anyone else wish to speak? Seeing no one else, we'll bring it back. Yeah. We'll bring it back to a rebuttal phase.
Not sure what all I need to rebut, but the one question I do have is it didn't go up overnight. It was like almost 4 or 5 weeks. It was worked on a couple days a week over a period of a month or maybe even more. I didn't keep track. I didn't know it was important. But my only concern is if it were a problem then, and if my neighbor had a problem, it could have been stopped at any time. I mean, the day I set the 4 posts would have been a perfect time to say, you can't do that, or what are you doing? Do you have a permit? I just don't understand why somebody would watch me work on it day after day, week after week, and wait till all the time and the money and the effort is put into it. And then when it's all finished and I can't fix it and I can't make it right and I don't have a chance to get a permit, then they go to the city and say, oh, look what she did. It's just, it seemed like a neighborly thing would have been just to say, you know, what are you doing? Or, you know, at least give me a heads up. You know, I've only lived there a year. I'm not familiar with living in town. I've lived in the country for the past 35 years. So this is all kind of new to me, but I do like to play by the rules, and I'm trying to. I just didn't know I was in violation to begin with.
Deborah, I have a question for you. Is her name? Speaker, yeah, I have a question. Did you have anyone, structural engineer or anyone, look at how you tied this in? I assume it's tied into the garage?
Yes, it is.
Structurally?
No, the gentleman that I have been, I did live outside of Burton, Kansas, so I had a Burton mailing address. And the gentleman that built this for me, he's a licensed electrician. He does construction stuff on the side, and I'd had him do some work for me before at my home when I lived out there. And I had him do some remodeling in my home, you know, stripping cabinets and painting and different things in the house. And I asked him if he could build a carport, and he said he would. So I know I have to have it inspected and permit. I'll do whatever he asks me to do. I'm just, like I said, it wasn't my intent to bully my way in. And like I said, I didn't put it up in the dark of night. You know, it went on for a long period of time. It could have been stopped at any point in time, and I would have tried to do what I needed to do to make it right.
Has this gone to the DAB? Doesn't go? Oh, thank you, Dale. Yes, Lowell.
So the contractor was a licensed electrician.
He's a licensed electrician.
It would seem to me that he would be aware that permits were required. You have lights underneath the canopy. I don't understand why he didn't say to you, we need to get a permit for this. He obviously works in a permit world. And so it would seem to me he should have told you he's the guy responsible. And I think you need to look to him, not to your neighbors, for your problem.
Any other, Mr. Foster?
At what stage was the construction when you received the information in December of last year? Was the carport 100% complete at that time in December?
I believe so. When I got the letter, it had been completed for a matter of time.
Thank you.
Any other questions? No other speakers? Okay, we'll bring it back to, Mr. Bill Johnson.
Made a motion to approve this in subdivision. Since it is just a vacation of a platted setback, Mr. Foster brought up a comment about most of the stuff is 25-foot setbacks. This happened to be 30. If that was the case, and I mean, now we're even doing some 20-foot setbacks, so none of this thing would apply and be able to be built. The other thing is, since it just is a vacation case, I can't think that we can put requirements on what it looks like and that sort of thing by us. Structural-wise, permit-wise, we're not going to approve that. That's got to go through central inspection. So with that, I'm going to move to approve the vacation.
I'll second that motion.
Motion by Bill Johnson, second by Mike Green. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So 10 to 2 passes. Thank you. All right.
Be 10-2, Blick would have to abstain.
Oh, so it'd be a 9-2-1.
Mr. Blick, I'm sorry, you came in after, and so are you willing to abstain from that?
Fine.
Okay.
It'd be 9-2-1. Okay? Okay, good luck in taking this to MABCD. Okay, case number 4, which is 2018-00014, county conditional use to allow a one-vehicle RV park on 37-acre zone RR rural residential. Dale, are you presenting this?
Yeah, Dale Miller, planning staff. You can see here the application area is an odd-shaped piece of property that's approximately, the staff report says 41 acres, but it's really only 37 because they also own this triangular piece, but it wasn't included as part of the application, so the application is the 37 acres outlined in the blue. You can see all the property surrounding it is zoned rural residential. The situation here is one that we've seen before, where the folks own the property but are not in a position at this point in time to pull a building permit. They would like to live out on the property and be in a position to ultimately pull a building permit to build a site-built house. And until that happens, they would like to live in a fifth-wheel travel trailer. You can see here it's located south of 101st and west of Meridian. Valley Center is down here. It did go to the City of Valley Center's Planning Commission last week, I believe it was, and they ended up recommending approval, giving the applicants up to 7 years to complete a house. They included the other conditions that are contained in the staff report. Staff had originally recommended 5 years. The Valley Center Planning Commission recommended 7. You can see the properties that are around it are other large lot tracts with single-family homes. This long strip here is a runway. And then there's farm ground to the south, southwest, and west. This is in Valley Center's urban growth area, so that's why they were given the opportunity to review it. This is their site plan. It is a long driveway from 101st back to the southern end of their application area. You can see here where they propose to locate the recreational vehicle. There are a couple of other accessory structures or buildings already out there. There's a steel shed, for lack of a better term. There's also a small, another shed like you would buy at a Lowe's or somewhere and then have brought out and dropped off. There's a water well. This is the driveway looking south to their property. See, it's this would be the narrow neck of the driveway, the homes on the east. This is over here is where the runway is. Just other properties in the general area. This is a shipping container that is on site. You can see sort of the metal building that I was referring to there, and there's another accessory structure. Some of the homes in the general area. When we were out there, the township guy was working on the culverts for the driveway, and so that's what the dirt work that you're seeing there is from. And with that, I'd try and answer questions. The applicants, I thought I saw, yeah, there they are here, and they would be able to answer specific questions if you have any.
For Mr. Miller. Okay. Seeing none, agent or applicant, please come forward. No, we aren't taking public comment yet. The agent or applicant has a chance to make a statement for 10 minutes or less.
Good afternoon. I'm Lisa Warren. This is my husband, Paul. We bought 41.6 acres without any infrastructure. There was no water, no electricity, just dirt. So we are working on building the infrastructure. The driveway is now under process with getting asphalt delivered. The well is already there, but we still have electricity and a lagoon to do. We really would prefer that those things not be in our mortgage. Those are things that we can orchestrate through contractors and some of our own elbow grease, and we would rather take the time to have those things done so that they're not in our mortgage. Financially, that if you look at the over $100,000 it is to set up the infrastructure, to put that in the mortgage is financially just not smart. We could start building a house now. We've already gone through all the approval, the contract. We already have the architecture stuff done. We have chosen to do this as we feel a more intelligent way. And right now we live in town and we go out there every weekend. Time is limited. We're both still working. We're not retired. We are still working and orchestrating our time the most efficient that we can. We would like to be able to have the RV there so that on the weekends we can move out, work all weekend long. He has every other Friday off, and then go back to in-town reality during the week. That it will take us at least another year or two to just be able to orchestrate. He's laughing at us. Sorry. To orchestrate that to happen, and then once we get all the infrastructure, we would like to have a short period of time where we live in the RV full time, sell our house, get the permits, and get the rest of the house going. But we really only want the house in a mortgage. Do you have anything to add?
No, I just, we have the acreage. We're putting up a nice RV. It's not, we're trying to keep the neighborhood looking good, and I think we're adding value to the neighborhood with the work we're doing. And I hope you consider our case.
The RV is a 2016 Keystone, Montana, and it had been used 3 months by a retired couple that were very sweet in Oklahoma that we bought it from, and they delivered it to us. It is in very, very good condition. It is not an eyesore.
Anything more? Any questions for the applicant? Seeing none, thank you. After public comment, you'll have a chance for rebuttal. Anybody in the audience wish to speak on this matter? Yes, sir. Go ahead.
My name is Neil Retberg, and I occupy the property up there that's called Harrison Airfield. This property is just parallel to theirs. On the east side, it runs a half mile. When my wife and I first purchased our property up there, and before we paid for it, or went through a contract, I went down to Sedgwick County Code, what was in the other building, and checked with the people down there on this property. And at that particular time, I was told that this property could be used for agriculture only. It could never be used for residential. My wife and I went ahead with our dream and plans, and we took and built the property up and the runway and our house, which took us 3 years to get through all the rigmarole. I think our site is very beautiful. It's a historical airfield. It goes back to 1944. My concern is when they put the property up for sale, and this lovely young couple bought it and came over and let me know basically what their plans was. I didn't have any particular objection at that time. But since we have attended the Valley Center meeting and this meeting, and I have read the article written here, I'm concerned. My understanding was as soon as they could take and afford to move up there, they were going to start building a house and getting the permit. And during that time, they would occupy the recreation vehicle. Well, to me, I understand that, and to me, that was all right. However, what I'm starting to understand now, that they're looking for a time element that could be 5 or 7 years. Well, my wife and I, it took us 3 years to get everything done, and our property was a disaster. We have a beautiful home up there, and I'm still not opposed to them, but my point is, I don't know when the house shall be built. However, if approved here by the waiver, it could be 5 or it could be 7 years. I do not agree with that. I have to look out of our house. We had a beautiful site out there, and now we have obstructions out there that I'm living with. And I know things changed. As I said earlier, that property was never supposed to be occupied. I didn't have a worry. Now it is occupied, and we're here at this meeting to recognize should they receive the waiver or not. I'm not opposed to the waiver. I'm opposed to anything longer than 5 years, and I'd like to see a time when the house will get started. The way it is now, it could be 5 years. I'm 82 years old. 5 years, I'll be 87. If God is willing, I'll still be here. However, this affects me because, or my wife and I, on our property, because we are exactly right there adjacent to them. So whatever our plans may fall in the near future, I have no idea. So I'm willing to take and say, yes, you have my blessing, but I do not bless for a period of 5 years, and I'd like to see a time when the house is going to be built rather than when it has to be built 5 or 7 years down the road.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
I have a question for staff. He indicated that nothing could be built on this site, yet I see it's zoned rural residential right now. Is that correct, Dale?
That's correct.
Nothing could be built on this site right now. So, I mean, a whole development could be built there. And can you show us where your site is, sir?
Oh, boy. I'm trying to find it here. Wait a minute, back up.
Where the hell? Oh, that's the sand plant, though. That's
That's,
I need to go the other way.
that's nothing to do with us.
Yeah,
We're not in the right.
I'll get it.
there it is.
Okay, now, one more.
Yeah.
Okay. To answer the question, let's see, whoops. Our property lies from here all the way down to the end and Kunsbach, and this is our home right in here. It's a T-section, 26 acres. Been up there since '04.
Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant? I mean, for the speaker. Next speaker, please. State your name and address.
You hear me? M. Lorraine Smith, 9801 North Meridian.
No, ma'am.
I don't want to. My property. I saw the problem Neil had, so I'm going to skip it. I have some questions, basically.
It's really hard to hear unless you're real close.
That was why I was at. Now I can hear myself. Okay. Some questions. It says, is only the Warrens able to use the RV? That's one of my questions. And then under the background, it says something about unlimited time frame. I wanted that clarified. And did I read with them having an RV that they need to have a lagoon system in there? What are they doing with the waste while they're living there? And you didn't say anything, well, you did mention it, and it showed up in the pictures of, we call it a red box car, or what he called a shipping container. I heard or was told that it was going to be temporary. Neil was, and then also they're talking about putting the RV on having a pole barn around it, which I can understand for storage. But if I understand by the pictures, that's where they're going to put the RV. That's not where they're going to build their house. There's a question there, I guess we always assumed where the RV was sitting previously, that was where they were going to build. And now I'm confused. I think what all of us in the area are concerned about, besides the time frame, is how it will affect the value of our homes. As Neil was saying, he's older. My husband passed away. We may want or need to sell our house down the road. And so it will affect the value and us selling our homes. I believe that's pretty much everything I have to say. Thank you.
Wait a minute, wait. Anybody have a question? Thank you.
Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
My name is Nancy Riley. I live adjacent to the property. I believe the home that I live in is the oldest home in the area.
What's your address, ma'am?
10011 North Meridian Avenue. We live in the Harrison House. It's a 3-story farmhouse that the field was named after the family that built it. I understand how difficult it is. I've never built a house, but I can understand how difficult it is. But again, the time frame is so wobbly or unlimited, and you people know this better than the rest of us do. Things change. The zoning commission decides to change the rules, and all of a sudden we're in a different situation. So what I really would want to say is, if you're going to give them some time to fiddle around with this, put a time limit on it that is a strict time limit, and make them go forth with their plans. If you're going to build a house, build a house. If you intend to live in an RV, fine, but don't do it on property that is not supposed to be housing an RV.
Got a
Yes, ma'am.
question. Can you show us on that map where you live?
With the mouse, please. Okay, thank you. Any other questions for the speaker? Next speaker, please.
Mike Boyd, my address is 3213 and 3223 West 101st Street North. I, like Neil, built the second house out on my property. It did take quite a while. It took me a year and a half to do it, but it's a very small house. It's only 1,000 square feet. I built it as an office and, went through the whole thing that these two people are going through, and I know it's difficult, but it's not insurmountable. The only thing I have objection to is an open time limit. I'm only requesting they complete it within the normal 5 years that what people are normally given, and that's my only request. They could have pulled a building permit and then we wouldn't even be here, but then they have to keep redoing it, as Neil and I know about. But my only request is that it is time limited. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Anyone else in the audience wish to speak? Okay, we will allow for rebuttal. Oh, somebody else? Well,
One of the consistent concerns that we understand is that the length of the request, it was came to us at 5 years. We requested 7. The unlimited is not part of this. It did take some of the previous people who've had experience to add buildings to their property. 3 years, a year and a half. They had infrastructure already there, electrical, water, driveways, everything was already there. We're trying to do this in the smartest financial way that we can while we are still working full-time. We're not retired while we're trying to build a house. We're still working. And there is no fiddling. Come see us out there working any day, and there is no fiddling going on.
I don't know if you guys had any questions on.
Where are you planning on locating your trailer and your house?
So let me see. See right here, this blue is the RV site. Can you see where I'm pointing?
Yeah.
And the house, am I right? The house will be right here. And there is a Yoder-built 12 by 25 foot shed, 2-story, right there currently. That was the shed that you saw in the pictures, the cream, that shed right there. This building here is a 25 by 25 future building, corrugated metal building. And it will have west-facing garage door and walk-through door. Windmill is here. Conex container was purchased to house this building in its pieces until we could get to where we could put it together. It was delivered kind of as a surprise due to hurricane damage in Florida. It became available to us, and that's where we had to store it because it was delivered in snow and freezing weather.
It remain there then when you build the
Yes.
house?
Yes. It would be like,
Are you on a well system there?
Uh-huh.
yes, the windmill.
And for sewage, well, how do you plan on handling the sewage?
We will have to have sewage. That's one of the steps we have to do. Right now, we're doing road, the service drive that we've worked with the fire to marshal and developed that plan, and we're working on it now. Next step is sewage septic tank system, whatever you want to call it.
It will be quite some time before we have the infrastructure such that we can even stay out there on the weekends. We still have generator, black water system. We're doing the driveway now.
And this all started out when we were in the process of getting a pole barn built for sheltering the RV and for future use as ag use.
And the pole barn will be just this side of the shed. This is south, this is facing south. The pole barn will be just south of the shed. And that north wall will be a solid wall. It won't even be visible from the road. And then half of this wall on the east will be covered and half of this wall on the west will be covered. And we will be able to get our sunlight through the south and part of the east corner and part of the west corner.
Mr. Green and then Ms. Miles.
Yeah, the Valley Center Commission stated that they would allow 7 years. In our recommendation, we've got a 5-year plus an additional possible administrative adjustment of another 5 years. If we were to say 5 years or just say 7 years period, would you be able to do all of that?
We certainly hope so. If you had talked to Paul and I 3 years ago and asked us if we'd ever live in an RV, we'd say absolutely not. But we have a dream here, and I am extremely confident that our house will be a very nice home in the neighborhood.
Ms. Miles.
I didn't hear, did you address the septic or lagoon? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
No worries. We do plan on having a lagoon.
Before you move it in?
It is out there, right? The RV is out there currently.
That's where we store it right now. And an RV is made so you can take it to
Before
a
you
dump
start
station.
living in it, then, I
Yeah.
guess is the right terminology.
Yes.
I didn't hear that.
So I just want to understand, so the RV will be located in the pole barn?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
It's an open-sided pole barn basically on
Right.
most of it. It's just the part of the two end walls and then the back wall is enclosed on the north side to keep it out of the wind. And
Hail, wind, rain, etc.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Buster?
One of the questions brought up by the speakers was, would only you as the applicant be, if living's the right word, but be using the RV? Is
And
that
our 2
correct?
dogs.
And your 2 dogs, okay. Then, I'm curious, would it work for you to actually commence construction within the 5-year period and then the allowance of 180 days for the construction?
I'm sorry, sir. I can barely hear you. I heard the allow for 180 days, but I couldn't hear the part right before that.
Commencing construction within a 5-year period.
Mike isn't working.
as far as 5 years, I think so. I mean, we've run into a lot of delays. I mean, we thought we would already have the house built by now. Just getting the road figured out with the fire marshal and getting the rules figured out and getting the marshal to figure out their rules took quite a bit of time.
We lost months in figuring out that we really didn't have to have a driveway wider than the road.
That services our house.
Sedgwick County Fire wanted it to be 26 feet wide. It is a third of a mile long. This process here will set us back at least 5 months, and that is only depending if when we call the company Yoder Engineering Services or Structures in Haven, if we can get right back on their schedule to build the pole barn. We will lose a minimum of 5 months, and we already waited 4 months for that January start, and now we will wait another 6. So that's 10 months lost in this alone. And again, the people that are saying that they built a house in 3 years and it's beautiful, well, you can come out and look at our property, and every single thing that we've updated and made better looks gorgeous, and we don't have any infrastructure. And we are running up against pause after pause after pause in figuring out all this process. It's a wonderful learning experience, but again, this alone is 5 months minimum setback.
Thank you.
What size is this RV?
It is a 42-foot fifth wheel. It is a Keystone, Montana, 1 bedroom, 1.5 baths. It is 2016, and it had only been used for 3 months. It is a very nice.
What I'm getting at, most RVs, and particularly that size, have a self-contained sewage system.
Yes, it does.
And I think, people need to know that its sewage is in a tank
Yes.
itself, and then when it comes time, that tank can be taken care of. So you don't need a lagoon right away.
Yeah, that is correct. Even if we did have a lagoon, you can't just hook up the RV and let it run, because you have to actually let the tank build up and then dump it when it's full. Otherwise, you have plumbing problems in your RV. So it's not like we could just hook up to the sewer system and use it like a house.
Any other questions?
Thank you, sir.
No other questions? We'll bring it back to the commission for deliberation.
Have
Thank
a
you.
Thank you.
Staff question.
Okay, we have a staff question from Mr. Richardson.
Dale, would you review for us, is there a difference between what's been proposed here and what the Valley Center Planning Commission did?
No, the explanation is pretty much the same.
But the time limit, is the time limit the same?
Well, the Valley Center Planning Commission granted them 7 years. Staff was recommending 5. There was the question about, are these the only people that can use it? As you know, conditional uses run with the land. If they would sell, this was approved and they sell the land to somebody else, then whoever buys the land later would be able to do the same thing for as long as the conditional use permits it.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Staff, Mr. Foster.
Dale, 2 questions. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The 26-foot width on the drive, I've always learned it was 20 foot. Where would the 26-foot width come from?
That's a surprise to me. That must be something that the fire department's doing. I will admit I'm not all that familiar with the service drive code, but I'm like you, sitting at subdivision committee meeting all these years. I thought 20 feet was the width, but.
Second question is, what limitations will they have on use of that storage container in terms of keeping it on the property? Are there any limitations for that?
No, not applied by this conditional use. It'd be like anybody else. I'm presuming that you can use it for storage, just like a site-built shed could be. But this particular action wouldn't have any impact on that if that's what the question is.
Approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Miles to approve, seconded by Mr. Blick.
Question? Is that with the 7 years?
That's with what, yes, with the 7 years.
I'd suggest the second, see if they concur with that as well.
Josh?
Josh?
Correct. Yes, 7. Yeah.
Any
Can I
discussion?
make a comment?
Yeah, we got
This is a
discussion.
comment.
No, this is discussion.
So, well, being from that area, I'm not too far from there, and being semi-rural myself, that, and I think the Valley Center Planning Commission has a good idea of what they want to expand into in the future. That's what their plans are, so the 7 years of what they think, I think is appropriate. Thank you.
Any other discussion?
I do have a quick question, just to make sure on the motion. That's just 7 years with no option to extend. There's the 5-year possibility for extension in the staff comments. I just want to make sure that's not part of the motion, just for clarity.
7 years was what Valley Center had given.
Yeah, what Valley Center recommended.
Thank you.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay, that's 11 to nothing. 12-0. Okay, our next item is item number 5, which is case number 2018-00015. And the applicant in this case has asked for it to be deferred. When this happens at a meeting, we sometimes open it up for comment. If people feel like they cannot come back at the time it will be heard, and we do not know, is there a specific deferral time in this? The hearing will be, the case will be heard 18th? 19th, April 19th. So at this time, yes.
I need to recuse myself from this one.
Mr. Foster?
I just want to point out on the case we just heard, Mr. Bill Johnson had left, and so we were down to 11.
That's what I thought, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
11-0, thank you. Okay, I assume we have a number of people here that would like to speak on this. Before we make a presentation here, I'm going to ask if people would mind coming back in 2 weeks. We can hear it today and take comment, and you will not be allowed to talk in 2 weeks if you spoke today. I know we have found in the past it's much more effective to speak at the time that a vote will be taken. But I'll leave that up to you. If there's people in the audience that would like to speak today rather than waiting for the 19th, then we'll hear the case from staff, take that comment, and then they will not be allowed to speak on the 19th. But others will be. We'll leave the hearing open until then. So what's the will of the people that might want to speak today?
Mike, first of all, it's hard for people to take off work
I understand.
to come, and the people have taken off work to come. And I don't know the reasoning why they're asking for an additional 2 weeks.
We don't necessarily listen to reasons. We usually grant extensions. I'm sorry. So, how many would still like to speak today as opposed on the 19th? Okay, we'll defer this case until the 19th of April. We need a motion on that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. So, and I would certainly apologize as chairman for any inconveniences may have caused you. I'm sorry. Okay. What do you got? Anything else to come before the commission today? If not, we're adjourned.
The only thing that's okay. I mean, we don't need to keep, Jim, we don't need to keep recording this.